The Chinese economy has slowed down very significantly over the last 2-3 years. During the same time, Indian economy has been moving up. Does the Chinese slowdown mean good news for India, or is it also a challenge for India? Let's talk a little bit about what the slowdown in Chinese economy means for us. It's true that the Chinese economy has moved on from the high double-digit growth rates to single-digit growth rate as far as GDP is concerned. Chinese economy grew at 7% in 2014, is expected to slow down to 6.8% this year, further to 6.5 next year, and then to 6.3 in the coming year. So there is a gradual tapering off of growth in China. Even the Chinese authorities admit it, and the Chinese plan for the next 5 years talks about 6.5% growth. During the same time, India's growth has been moving up. It's not that India's growth is moving up because China is slowing down. I think India's growth is moving up because some of the binding constraints to India's growth are being slowly released, and that's pushing our growth up. As far as China's slowdown is concerned, China is slowing down because it cannot afford to grow much faster. The faster it grows, the more risks it creates for the economy. So I think for a sustainable growth path, China needs to rebalance its growth. It needs to grow at a slower pace to reduce the risk to the financial sector. So the reasons for Chinese slowdown and Indian economy picking up are quite different and quite unrelated in the first place. Now, let's look at what the Chinese slowdown has done to us. Well, I think the good news is that it will bring in more capital flows into India, because India becomes more attractive vis-a-vis China and vis-a-vis many other economies which are slowing down. But I think if you look at the trade part of it, I think that is where we lose out. India has been gradually increasing its exposure to the Asian economies. About 50% of exports go to Asia. As a result of China's slowdown, these economies have also slowed down because they are very closely interconnected with China. And as a result of slowdown in export destinations, India's exports have also been slowing down very, very swiftly. And I think the latest number for the month of September shows minus 24% growth in exports. Now, if you specifically focus on the India's trade with China, I think that is where the picture is very, very worrying. What we saw in 2014-15, India's exports to China fell by 20%, whereas its imports from China increased by 20%. So what that means is the trade deficit went up. We run a very high trade deficit of close to $50 billion with China right now. Our imports from China are inelastic. They are more finished products. Our exports to China are cotton and more raw material kinds, which tend to slow down when Chinese economy slows down. So China continuing to slow down would mean in the current existing system a pressure on India's trade deficit. And by the way, India's trade deficit with China is close to 35% of the total trade deficit that India runs. So I think Chinese economy's slowdown is not all good news for us. We can encash the opportunity only if we set our house in order, which means we relentlessly keep improving our ease of doing business environment. We make it easier for firms to access electricity, provide them better infrastructure. Only then I think we are in a position to take some of the space that will be vacated by Chinese slowdown. Otherwise, I think if we fail to do that, I think the Chinese slowdown will hit us more than benefit us.